Hello everybody, my name is Cool, but I'm bringing out this video of me talking about a board game, and today I'm going to be doing my review of the Solar Sentinels after my playthrough. So I've done a playthrough of this, and I'm going to go ahead and do just kind of my review of it, just to kind of talk about it, explain it a little bit, and then get into the fun of it all. So let me, sorry, I gotta set up a thing here. There we go. All right, perfect. All right, so I'm going to switch over to my main screen over here, and this is just kind of a mock setup. This is not a full setup. This is nowhere near a full setup for 20 strong. But essentially what we're looking at is we are looking at just something I'm going to use to start my explanation. So let me go ahead and play my music in the background here first. And I will say, just to not bury the lead, 20 strong Solar Sentinels, I did enjoy my experience with it. I do think it's a little bit basic. A little bit on the basic side, which is, you know, not the greatest thing, but, you know, it's kind of go in, roll some dice, chuck some dice, and see what happens. That's kind of how I feel about the whole entire experience. So I'll explain more of that as we go along. But for now, what we're looking at is we're looking at just very generic setup of the game. When you play the game, you'll be playing a character here. So you have one of the 6 characters that exist. So there's 3 cards, and both are double-sided. So different characters, different starting stats, different abilities. So it gives you a little bit of variety to play each one. And also, if you're playing the full game, you have missions. I do not have those set up here, but you have missions, a certain number of missions depending on how difficult your game is going to be set to be. The base default is to draw 4, keep 3 missions that you'll be playing through. And these missions, if you do not finish them, that'll make the ultimate goal a little bit more challenging. And the ultimate goal in this game is to fight one of the big bads that are here. So these are the big monsters that you'll be fighting. You won't know which one you're fighting. There's some items in the game or some processes through the game that you can find out what creature you're going to be fighting and then kind of veto it with some other abilities. But for the most part, you're going to be facing one of these. And these guys are pretty big and pretty monstrous, and they'll be a little bit quite a challenge. They'll be pushing your strategy to its limit. So hopefully you'll be collecting items to empower yourself and give yourself the advantage that you need to take care of the boss and the other minions as you go along. Hopefully you'll be managing your dice well, so that way you can actually make sure you have the proper resources to fight. And also hopefully your dice rolls will be going well, so you can actually continue playing the game. Because if you don't, and your health goes down to 0, you will die. And that does not feel good. Ask me how I know. Sorry, jokes aside. Looking at what we have here, we have my character, as I mentioned before. My character has the 3 stat dice set to him. And those stats are the health, the strategy, and the recovery. The health will correspond to your hit points. Anytime you take damage, your hit points will be reduced, of course. You can never go above 6 hit points in the game. And your goal is to not die. So dying, that's one of the losing conditions, is to have your health go down to 0. Your strategy, it determines how many times you can roll your dice during your during your engagement phase, and that will also determine how many items you can have in your. That'll determine how many items you can have in your. Was it on 4? It was on 4. I think it was on 4. Whatever, it doesn't matter. This is a random ad hoc demo. But the strategy will determine how many items you can hold. So currently, I can only hold 3 items, as in 3 items that are continuous, like this one here, or 3 items that are one-time use, like that one there. And I'll show these on the bigger screen here shortly, once we get through the fight. And then finally, you have your recovery. Your recovery will determine how many dice you can pull back from the exhausted pool, which I'm representing over here. This is my hypothetical exhausted dice, and how many dice you can pull back from that pool into your active pool over here. And your active pool is, of course, where you'll be choosing to activate your dice from. So it is important, it is imperative that you maintain a certain amount of dice so you can actually, you know, play the game, roll your dice, and fight the creatures. So, speaking of the dice, we have 5 different kinds of dice. We have your pretty much your critical dice, your main dice that you'll always be using. And I'll bring this up on the close-up screen here. So this die, you can see it has 5 different little notches on each face, and that represents, 6 different little notches on each face, and that represents the fact that each face here is a hit, will give you a hit, with one of the faces being a critical, that one there. The next die in line, you can see here the purple one has only 5 little gear or 5 little nubs on the gear there, and that represents the fact that 5 of these faces have hits, with one of them being a crit, and then one of the faces is a miss, like so. And then going over to the blue die, same concept. It has 4 notches, so 4 faces are hits, with one of those hits being a crit, and then 2 being a miss. The green is 3 and 3, and the yellow is 2 and 2. So clearly the yellow is much weaker than the red in the case of just getting a hit or just kind of guaranteeing a hit, because the red is a guaranteed hit, whereas the yellow is a whatever that percent was, that 30% chance you'll hit versus red being 100%. And then of course, if you want to get crits, the yellow dice and all the dice are basically equal when it comes to getting crits. All of them have an equal chance of getting crits. So that's how the dice are working there. And that's important to know because, oh, I forgot what I had where. 1 second. I think I had this situation going on. I don't know. All right. This is all a made up demo anyway, so it doesn't matter. But all that represents the simple fact that you'll want to be able to use that to your advantage. So what am I using this to my advantage for? Well, first we're gonna go ahead and do what we need to do here for our turn order, because the flow of a round follows in this way. You start with the activation, and then you go into an engagement. So we're just going to essentially follow these steps, and I'm going to explain each one as we go along. And then after I'm done with this, we'll demonstrate a fight, and then I'll start talking about things that I like and things I don't like about the game. So as far as the flow of a round, we'll start with activating one enemy. So I'll choose one of these enemies to activate. These enemies have different text and different information on them. So if I bring this guy up here on the zoomed in screen, you can see that this one is called the Spider Pus. Spider Pus, and this one has this little plus symbol, which we'll talk about in a moment, but it has 2 health and will deal 3 damage if I do not defeat them while I'm facing them. And then also it has some text on here that says, when defeated, if not the first enemy defeated this engagement, discard the top 2 cards from the leftmost stack. And that could be bad, that could be good, depends on where I'm at. And then finally we have an item. This is an item that I will earn at the end of the fight if I defeat this creature, that allow me to use it. And this symbol specifically means one-time use, meaning that if I use this particular effect, then the card is discarded after I use the item. So it's a one and done card. So this is one of the cards that I'm going to go ahead and take from my little stack here. So we're going to make the assumption that I'm just choosing these enemies in this particular way. So I'm going to take this one, and that reveals the next one. Because it has a plus skull, the plus skull means that I must pull another person into the fight. So I can choose which one that I want. Notice that all these cards are yellow. These cards are non-mandatory. That'll make more sense here in a second. Let's say I want to pull this guy in because I like his effect or something, or I like the item that he gives me. And this one has an effect and also has a plus skull. So let's say I want to choose another one. Let's say I'm going to choose this guy here for fun. And there we go. I've chosen my enemies. This one does not have a plus skull, so I do not have to continue drawing. Now, I did mention that there's a difference between the yellow and the different color enemy. So these ones are orange enemies here. So let's show, there we go. These are orange enemies here, and these are considered mandatory. Mandatory enemies are enemies that I must choose in my selection if they are face up. So in the example that I just did, this one wasn't face up, so I didn't have to take them, so that's fine. This one was yellow. This is the one that I did take, and notice that even though I took this one and this one was revealed to be orange afterwards, because this creature did not have a plus skull on it, it meant I did not have to draw. So whenever you're doing the encounter, you must you essentially just draw 1, and then you go for the fight. But because I had the little plus skull situation, it complicated things, pulled more creatures in, and now I gotta deal with all these monsters at the same time. So speaking of dealing with the monsters, let's go ahead and continue walking through the flow of a round. So now that I've chosen done my activation, and I don't draw anymore because I don't have any more plus skulls here, I'm going to go into the engagement phase. Now the engagement is going to be consisting of the strategy phase and the resolution phase, or the strategy phase and the resolve phase. So from there, I'm going to do the strategy phase, which first I do the commit, and I'll be able to do this strategy phase 3 times total. But at the top of my first strategy phase, I'll commit dice. So I'll choose which dice I want to roll. Well, actually, before I do that, let me read what they do. This guy says 1 defeated. If not the first one defeated, then I'll discard some cards. Okay, cool. This one says in the roll dice step, if you roll 2 or more misses, discard this card, discard this enemy, and I get no rewards. So that could be pretty bad, especially if I want that item. And then this one says dice can only be applied to enemies if the die, if a die of the same color is in your exhausted area. You may exhaust unapplied dice, unapplied hits at any time. So that's important. That's important to know. So that means that in this particular case, because of this creature specifically, that effect, which is only available, only active while I'm fighting him, or sorry, only active while he's alive and while I'm fighting him. So these guys have active effects up here, but they do not apply right now. Only this one applies because it's in my active area. That's what I'm trying to say. But if I do defeat him by dealing 6 damage, then this effect I can ignore completely. But for right now, that's making it to where I can only apply purple, green, blue, and yellow, which is pretty much everything except for my reds. And that's a little annoying. So, yeah, okay. Well, I'm not going to roll my red then. So in this case, I'm going to choose which ones I want to commit. I can commit as many dice as I want to, assuming that I'm not breaking any rules here. So in this case, because I really don't want this one to run away, because I want that item, and I want to be mindful of this effect, what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll my blue, my purple, my green, and my yellow. I'm just going to roll one of each. And then we're going to see if we can take some stuff out. So I've rolled my dice, and as you can see here, I rolled 2 hits. And this one says, if you roll 2 or more misses, discard this enemy, no reward. So unfortunately, I misread that. I thought I said 2 hits, but 2 or more misses. So this one just disappears. That's what his effect says. So sad, because I really wanted that item. Darn, should have paid more attention. And then moving on to here, these are the rolls that I had. And now I can choose if I want to apply these. So let's say I do want to apply this one. I do want to take this one out because I want this effect for some reason. So it's going to do that. And that's it. Now I have 2 more rounds to do this. So I start the top of my second strategy phase. This guy's still active, so I can only pull these color dice here. Meaning I cannot use my red die, which is a little bit hampering, but that's fine. Any dice that I've already committed has to stay over here because it will be exhausted at the end of the round. But in the next strategy phase, I can choose to re-roll, or well, I have to re-roll these ones because they're not committed, is what I'm saying. There are some things that you can get to break that rule, but for right now, I'm just going to do this purple, and this blue. So I'm going to roll this total, and then we're going to see how we do. All right, so we got some hits. We got some hits. It's not great. It's not looking too hot here, but it's fine. So let's see. We're going to apply. Man, I kind of want to hold on for crits, but you know what? We're just going to apply those 2. So it's almost down. But not quite. I am feeling a little bit afraid. So I'm committing a lot, and you notice that I'm committing a lot of dice here to this, which means that I might be in trouble for my future engagements because I'm deciding to pull more dice. Now I only have 2 active dice here, and my recovery is only 4, so I will only be able to pull 4 of these dice back. So knowing that much information, I might be in trouble, but you know what? We're gonna roll. All right. Unfortunately, it looks like I'm going to be in a little bit more trouble than normal. All right. So now that we have this going on, I'm going to look at my character's ability because I completely did not read this, but that actually helps me a lot. This one says yellow misses may be changed to hits when applied to a level 2 enemy. This is a level 1 enemy. This is a level 2 enemy. What that means is I can take this yellow and yellow misses may be turned to hits when applied to a level 2 enemy. So that's 1. So this is a 6 total to kill. We have 5 on them. So I'm gonna, oh, sorry, that was a normal hit. We're gonna apply that one there. So that's perfect. And then I'm gonna apply these 2 there. Boom, I took them all out. Just barely took them all out. Because I took this one out before I took this one out, the effect here said will not trigger. So, will trigger. So it says when defeated, if not the first enemy defeated this engagement, discard the top 2 cards from the leftmost stack, which is perfect because here's a mandatory enemy I don't want to fight. So we're going to throw this one away, and we're going to throw this one away. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. That worked out. Worked out pretty well. So now that we're done with that, we're going to continue with these phasing here, the flow of a round. We're going to go into resolve phase, so we're going to suffer damage. There's none to suffer because everybody's defeated. Then we're going to deal with after effects. After effects are a specific symbol, like this one here, convenient timing. After effects are this specific symbol here, which says if this enemy is defeated, banish all dice that are applied to it. The after effects will always trigger whether the enemy is defeated or not. So in this case, if I defeat this enemy, then they'll make that thing happen where my dice just disappears, which is not great. Thankfully, he's only on 1 hit point, so I'll probably try to use a yellow die or a lesser die, like a green die for it. And also, when I do defeat this one, which is a symbol that did not show up in our current fight, but if I do defeat this one when it has a lightning bolt like this, that means that I get that ability, or I get that upgrade immediately, which in this case will increase my recovery by 1. So that's what that does for the after effects. So there are no after effects here. So now there's no after effects, I move on to exhaust. So I exhaust my dice. All dice, even ones I didn't apply, go into my exhaust pool. And as I mentioned before, it's quite a lot of dice going over there. And then I get to recover. My recovery is 4, so I get to choose 4 of these to pull back. I like to have 1 of each color if I can, so I'm just going to pull back 1 purple. I'm going to pull back 1 green. I'm going to pull back 1 yellow. And I'm going to use my last one to pull back another purple. So that's my 4 that I pulled back. And then I gain items and item rewards, which in this case will be both of these. These are 2 different items I'm gaining. I'm gaining space sushi, and I'm also gaining a do-over item. So do-over item says once per engagement, you may change 2 misses of the same die color to hits, single hits. So that's pretty nice. So here's my little item. I'm just gonna put it there to represent that I have it. And this other item is a one-time use item, and allows me to roll all exhausted dice and recover any that roll hits. Now keep in mind that I can only hold up to 3 items, as I mentioned before. I only have 2, so I'm fine. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and use the space sushi immediately, because it allows me to roll all exhausted die and recover any that roll hits. So I should have paid attention to that earlier, because that meant I should have taken my weaker dice. Actually, I'm going to retcon that in my demo. We're going to take all of our weaker dice first. There. And then, so that's my 4 recovery. And then we're going to use our space sushi to roll all exhausted dice and roll all exhausted dice and recover any that roll hits. That's what it says. So we're going to do it. It's been a long night, clearly. All right, so any that roll hits are ones that I recover. So I get to recover those ones. Cool. And then these are back into my exhausted. Then I get these ones. And all right, we get just those 2. And then these are exhausted. Okay, cool. That worked out. Look at that. I thought I was going to be in a bad position, but it looks like I'm not. Okay, cool. Now I'm done with all that. We're going to go into our final step and final most important one, the one that I kept forgetting, which is to discard 1 non-mandatory enemy from a stack. So I can choose 1 of these stacks. Let's suppose I really don't like that whole discarding a thing, or that whole banishing a die, so I'm just going to get rid of him. And that itself speeds the game up a little bit, so that can lead to the game being faster. And also I discarded 2 from here, and then I discarded 1, so maybe this is a stack that I'm going to try to deplete so I can get ready to go fight the boss. All right, okay, cool, that's enough of that. So essentially, as you see, we're going to go through those phases over and over. We're going to continue that until one of these stacks runs out. And then once one of these stacks runs out, then I'll have the option or the ability to fight one of the big bosses. When you do get to the fighting the big boss, you'll basically draw them randomly from the stack here, unless you have one that's already revealed, which is a thing that can happen from items that exist. And you'll pull 2 enemies, ignoring any of the skull symbols that they have. So in this case, let me just set up a scenario. Let's just say that this is the remaining situation, and I gotta pull 2, so I have to pull any mandatory. So I'm gonna pull that guy, and I'm gonna ignore this skull completely. So I'm just gonna pretend that one doesn't exist for the final fight, and then I gotta pull 1 more. Let's say I don't like this one, I really want to fight this guy instead, so I pull him in, and there you go. And then I go and fight him. I see if I win, follow the rules, and that's gonna be it. Okay. Cool, that's enough about explaining the game. So there's also how to play videos out there, so definitely go check those out. They do a lot better job than I just did. I'm just kind of trying to explain just enough so we can start talking about the game. So things that I liked, I'm gonna start with that. One of the things that I liked a lot about this game is I did like the fact that it felt like it was doing a lot with what little resources it had. Just with the 20 dice, just with the effects on the cards, just with the chip that comes with the game, and just with how everything kind of interacts. it felt like it was a really well thought out system. It felt like they actually put a lot of thought into it for chip theory. So kudos to you guys. It felt like it was a system that really flowed very well once you kind of got the hang of it. It also felt like I was becoming stronger as I got along. Some of these items, as you get them, they become very useful. They become very beneficial. They help you manipulate the dice. They help you get in and turn a bad situation into a great situation. Like you even saw in my example, I was going to take some damage. I would not have been a goner, but I was going to take some damage and not be in the greatest spot. But because of my character's built-in ability, I was able to, save the day and bounce back and actually take out the enemy that I was fighting. And that felt really good. That felt really good. It's like, oh man, look, it works out just perfectly enough for me to take out this person. I have just enough strength to take out this thing that I'm trying to fight. So that's pretty nice. Also, I like the fact that it's a pretty small game. This is a single deck of cards and 20 dice that you can fit very easily into a single deck box. Probably a deck box that can hold 80 plus cards. Maybe not one that's smaller than that. I'll make the argument because the stack of cards, it's not a ton. Hold on, let me see. These are all of the cards. Whoops. There we go. These are all the cards. So you have all these cards. You have this chip. You have these 20 dice, as I mentioned before. It's probably going to be the hardest thing to store. And then you have the rule sheets. So you can pretty much probably fit all this in one deck box, actually. Okay, fine. I was trying not to get up and get a deck box, but I'll go get a deck box. And the portability factor of it is pretty nice. It means that you can kind of, put it in a little deck box or put it in a storage container that you have, and then chuck it in a bag, and then carry yourself a nice little game to travel with you. Also, I will say that there's a lot of variety, despite the fact. Sorry, I'm searching through stuff here. There's a lot of variety in the game, despite the fact that it's basically just whatever number of cards is in there. I don't know exactly how many cards are in the deck. I guess I should probably check the rulebook. Maybe it says it in there. But regardless, however many cards are inside the deck, I feel like it's doing, again, a lot with a little. So a lot of praises that I have for the game. Once again, for those who don't know, there's a whole series that I'm doing right now called Small Box Big Game. That's what this video is a part of. And this game is very much in that Small Box Big Game series. Mainly because it is a small box. Once you put it into a small deck box, basically. And you get a big old game out of it. I mean, it looks like, yes, you can indeed fit it inside, well, with a little bit of a struggle here. Fit it inside of a Ultra Pro. Ew. Okay, that's not the greatest fit. You can definitely fit it inside of an Ultra Pro deck box like I'm doing here. Doing very badly. Let's try that in better order. All right, so we got the rule sheets, we got the cards, we got the dice. I'm committing to the bit, y'all. I'm committing to the bit. It's too late. All right. Oh, wait, no. We gotta put the chip in first. That's a problem. That's where I messed up. There we go. And now we put the dice in. No? Okay. All right, ignore my failures here. It's late at night. That's my excuse. But continuing on with the video, back to things that are relevant. Things that I don't like about the game. I am not a huge fan of some of the swinginess of the game. There have been a few times in previous playthroughs that did not go live, not because I lost or anything. I think I won every single playthrough that I've done. I definitely lost one. I don't remember which one. But I won most of the playthroughs that I played through of this game so far. So I feel like the win rate is pretty high for me. And also on top of that, which means that I'm not saying the game is solvable, but I feel like it gives you enough tools to make it through. And I feel like some of those wins were basically based on one single dice roll, which again, this kind of game, it's a dice game. Your dice exist. Sometimes dice hate you, sometimes dice don't hate you, sometimes luck is on your side. It really depends on how things are going. You know, you might get the good roll, you might get the bad roll. But that all goes a long way to say that it can be very swingy. There will be times to where you're just doing so good and you're just like, oh man, this game's like the easiest game in the world. And then the next round, you turn around and you just get beat down because your dice were not rolling properly. You rolled your purple dice, which are supposed to have 5 hits and 1 miss, and every single one is a miss. And it's like, what are the chances? And you just end up in a rough situation. So that goes a long way to say that, yeah, this game is very swingy. that can lead to situations where you start the game and you die immediately. I've had that happen before in way past playthroughs, not the most recent playthroughs. I've had situations before where I kind of made it all the way to the end, and I decided to just, just kind of push my luck, do one more fight, and that one more fight before the boss ended up being like massive and basically took me out of the game to where I had no chance to fight the final boss. And those kind of swings, those kind of booms and busts can really be agitating, especially when you consider that this game it's not necessarily a long game. I think it takes on average about an hour to play through each time for my playthroughs, and I've done recordings of them, so it could be the recording factor, the me talking factor, the me kind of waffling back and forth with decisions. Even when I was doing my little demo here, you saw that going on. But it just turns out that it's a dice game. It's a dice game. They're definitely giving you a lot of opportunities to mitigate your dice. So things like cards allow you to roll all your dice again to recover them. Cards that allow you to get, if you roll 3 different colors of dice, then you get to turn one of your misses into a hit. Those kind of things can be really powerful for your character. And they can make you feel good because, again, you might be in a tight spot, but then you just have that one perfect item that lets you do the thing you need to do to win. Or you might have that one specific impact from one of the creatures that you're fighting that just might be able to give you the victory. And also it gives you an interesting puzzle, but sometimes that puzzle doesn't puzzle. What I mean by that is that you look at the effects. Here, let's bring this up. You look at the effects that exist on some of these creatures, and this one says dice can only be applied to enemies if a die of the same color is in your exhausted area. You may exhaust unapplied hits at the same time, or at any time. So if you have a situation like that blends in with the effect like this, like specifically this creature is a monster to deal with sometimes, and not in a good way, because he just keeps showing up every single fight. But you can have situations to where, like, if you have this guy plus this guy, which only lets you commit 3 dice. In addition to that, you have this guy who can only have 2 dice applied to him. A max of 2 dice can be applied to this enemy. Yeah, you can end up in some very tight spots that are not necessarily like this is a fun puzzle, but more of like, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I playing this? Why am I playing this? And that does bleed a little bit into the I just want to win every time I play factor. And I do agree, you do have to come into this game with an open mind of you may not win. You do kind of have to do your best, but you have to kind of accept the fact that these are dice. And if you do that, you'll have a much easier time approaching the game. But that still doesn't deny the fact that sometimes you end up in combinations that are just either near impossible to win, like you just don't have enough dice left to win, or maybe you just have a series of unfortunate events that lead to your demise. All things can happen, but again, still a dice game. Those are some of the cons that come about because of that. Another con too is that some people have complained about this. I haven't played my copies enough to see this issue totally, but if you look on these cards, you'll see that they have some foiling on them. So you see like the little shiny part, and there have been some people complaining that the foiling has been flaking off. The foiling has been kind of going bad and not doing good, and that's a big deal, especially when you consider that all the cards have the foiling. So if I bring up the monster cards here, these are the boss cards. You see that the entire back of this card has the red little foiling there, or the whatever the proper word is for that, the holographicness. And the back of every single monster or encounter card here has the same stuff in red. This is definitely not good for the long run of the game. Though these cards are all plastic cards, it just means that the wear and tear that you'll have from this game, especially if it's one game that you play a lot, the wear and tear that you have from the game will definitely be showing, and that might lead to situations to where you might just know what a card is because you see, oh, a scratch in a very specific pattern there. I know what that card is. So that's another con. It comes down to kind of how they did it. I mean, it looks nice. It looks very pretty. Like, that looks very cool and flashy, literally. But ultimately, was it needed? I don't think it was really needed. I think it's just kind of chip theory being chip theory. But sure, whatever. Okay, all right. So I pretty much talked about my pros, my cons. One thing that I will say that I think is very important is that I do enjoy this game, but I do enjoy this game to a point. And what I mean by that is that while I'm playing it, sometimes it's like, oh man, that's so cool. Oh man, look how things are working out. This is great. And then I kind of take a step back and remind myself is like, okay, this is my 5th playthrough of this, and I've kind of seen the same loop that's here. And I don't hate the loop because I don't feel like the loop overstays its welcome, especially with all the different factors that they have in the game to kind of speed things up and get you to the end boss quicker. But it's still kind of the same loop, almost in the solvability realm. What I'm trying to say is I feel like sometimes when I play the game, I'm doing the same strategy, and I'm not walking from the beaten path, and it's working every single time. And then the moment I try to walk from the beaten path, because of how limited the decision space actually is in this game, you are probably not going to have a good time. And what I mean by that is that the decision space in this game are basically choose one of these 3 stacks to fight. And the 3 stacks are basically all not great, but they usually give you some kind of item to compensate. So for instance, there might be a creature that will banish a dice. And if that creature banishes your dice, that might suck. But when you defeat them, you get to recover 5 dice or something like that. I'm not quoting an exact creature, but I just kind of feel like sometimes it doesn't seem as threatening as it is, the whole game as a whole, and that's a good thing because it means that it won't like run you away and just kind of run the table on you. It just, you know, basically play a 1-player or play a solo game, or not solo, a 0-player game where it's playing itself and you're just watching. But on the other hand, it will be nice to kind of have a little bit more decision space. Like, hey, maybe you can deck out your starting character more, and you can, because you do have some mix and match ability with other sets. I forgot to mention this. I could, you know, kicking myself a little bit for completely forgetting to talk about this. But oh, those aren't those. But the starting people, they do have some of them that have stars on them, and this indicates that it's a universal character. And the universal characters, they can be played in any set. As in, you can take this character from this game, from Solar Sentinels, and go to the 20 strong Too Many Bones, and then play this character. And then take this character and go to the 20 strong Tanglewood Red, and play this character. And that's really cool that you kind of have a lot of mix and match in between them. I mean, I guess you don't have a ton of mix and match in between the different games, but the fact that you can kind of take a character from one game and play it in another, that's fun. But that usually means that the characters that you are taking to another game, the universal characters, that they are a little bit more generic. So I felt like, let me see, where's this one? This character, the Lancer. Essentially, sometimes their ability triggers, sometimes it doesn't. And their ability is whenever you roll crits, before you exhaust your dice, you get to pull back up to 2 crits that you rolled that round, or that you committed that round. And that's pretty cool, but it's also kind of generic, especially considering that the characters that are not unique to each set, they're a lot more robust as far as their ability specifically for this set, and that's pretty neat. But you know, can't win them all. If you want to make a game to where your character from one game, from the first game in the series, designed in 2023, is able to be compatible with the events that happen in the game that you designed in 2025, there are some limitations that you have to implement. There are some generic things that you have to implement. So sure, I can see that, but that doesn't stop the fact that it is a little annoying that some of the characters here are a little bit dry, cut and dry, stale. Like, hey, you get +2 to every, you get to +2 to any stat at the start of the game. It's like, yeah, that's not that exciting. Anyway, I feel like I've rambling forever. So there's a lot of things that I like about the game. There's a lot of things that I dislike about the game. Ultimately, it's definitely going to live in my collection because I feel it's a very small game that does punch well above its weight for what it has. The 20 strong system is pretty neat in how it's trying to use the dice that it has and the cards that it has to kind of create different gameplay mechanics. So I do appreciate 20 strong Chip Theory. I do appreciate Chip Theory for doing that in making the series, and I hope to see more. I'm looking forward to the Cloudspire one that's coming out, and I'm also looking forward to playing through the rest of these to see if, one, I make it through the rest of these, and then two, see if I'm able to, you know, not be a scrub. I don't know. Took me a few playthroughs to finally get the gist of what was going on in this one. This is well before I started doing the recording of the videos for YouTube. And then when I was doing my recordings for the videos for YouTube, because I basically have done 3 playthroughs, 2 of which I did some rules wrong, and the third one I finally got all the rules right, I think. People in the comments will let me know for sure. I feel like I've gotten to the point to where I understand the game well enough to not die, but still, there's still dice involved. Like, I can have the best plan, and then all of my dice just roll blanks, and it's like, well, guess this is where I die. All right, so that is going to be it for this video. Let me know what you all think of the 20 Strong series. Hopefully this video was informative for those who are looking to hear my rambling opinion on the entire game. I think it's a pretty solid game. I think it's worth the money to get. I don't think it's worth paying more than $30 for. If you're for some reason paying $30 for this game, I feel like at that point you might be getting ripped off. And by that I mean the base game plus this. I think the 20 Strong base game is $20, and then this is $15. So yeah, MSRP. Don't pay more than MSRP for this. I don't think it's worth more than MSRP for it. Also really quality components. Plastic cards. Didn't mention that, but I did mention the foiling on the back that I'm not happy about. But nice plastic cards. You don't have to sleeve them. That's pretty cool. You can play this game underwater, allegedly. That's cool. I never will. But thanks for having it there. All right. Okay. Now that I've extended my outro, I'm going to go ahead and say my official outro. Thank you all very much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it. Hope this is very informative. And as always, I will see you all whenever.